Let's see that again, shall we? So you might be asking, what the hell was that? Let's do that again in slow-mo.
What we're seeing here is a total of 53 terramotes being consumed. There were also 2 landslides used afterwards, so we'll minus 4. That brings us to 49, and with 10% chance on terramote from hitting the boss, that brings us to around 54 total terramotes used from just trample.
Okay, so in this video we are going to go over the build that can do this, as well as perfect it to make it way stronger. So this video is courtesy of my friend Rado. I'm going to link his channel in the description as well. Be sure to check him out. But him and I worked together to create a very strong trample landslide build, and I haven't seen anything like this before. And it has some crazy potential, as you can see by this clip, but it does have some downfalls as well, so let's go over that right now. So this build will combine a bunch of bonuses for earth skills, fortification, and a ton of crit damage. So we're going to start with the items first. We're going to start with aspect of the quicksand. We're taking earth skills slow the enemy's hit. So that is pretty much an instant CC for earth skills, which is going to work with our crushing earth skill to give us 15% extra damage. So right off the bat, you're actually just getting 15% extra earth damage. Secondly, we're getting earth guard aspect. This gives us up to 25% bonus amount on our bulwark for each enemy crowd control that you get, up to 100%. So it is very easy with this build to do crowd control. We're taking poison creeper. This will give you 100% extra barrier, which will also affect your fortify and essentially give you a very high amount fortify just by doing a poison creeper, for example, and then a barrier. So it's very easy to get fortify in this build. Next up, we do have aspect of natural balance. Now this one is very important. Casting a storm skill grants your earth skills a lot of crit damage, up to 45%, and then earth skills will increase crit strike chance for storm skills. This one's not as important. The first part is the very important part. So now when the game does come out, it is worth testing out this natural balance in the weapon slot. So this would give us around 90% damage, extra crit damage if in the 2-hander slot. But we have aspect of the trample earth here, and this will give us our trample ability to summon 6 landslide pillars, and this is what helps us do insane damage to bosses especially. But this is going to give us 70 to 80% normal damage to those pillars. So being in the 2-hander slot can give us pretty much 160% damage times 6 if you're able to hit all of those, and potentially more. So I have that here for now. This is very good for the bossing and other stuff, but it's possible that you might want to trade this aspect of natural balance for trampled earth just to get double % on natural balance. This will essentially guarantee the landslide abilities that you use hit a little higher overall, and depending on the cooldown and who you're fighting, that trample will be on cooldown a bit and might not hit that often with those extra 6 landslides. We're going to go over that in just a second as well. Also note that trample is now an earth skill as well as nature magic. So earth skills will be buffed. Trample is also going to be buffed with that. Next up, we do have aspect of the mending stone to increase the duration of Earthen Bulwark, which will just help generally with other things, as well as killing an enemy will replenish our barrier. So this will help us stay protected, keep our fortify up, and just overall be tankier. But keeping that fortify up is very important for this build, and also helps with a lot of more DPS. For boots, we have ballistic aspect to gain 2 ranks of earth every time we're fortified. So like I said, fortify will help us do a lot more damage. Next up, we have crash zone aspect in the amulet. So this one will give us earth skills will deal 40 to 50% more crit damage to crowd controlled enemies. And now if you recall, we have aspect of quicksand in the helmet. So pretty much everyone we attack with earth skills will be slowed. So that's a very easy way for a free 50% extra crit damage and up to 75% in the amulet slot. So that will be very effective there. In the rings, we have aspect of retribution. Now this one is just to help get terramotes for landslide. So this one is distant enemies. You have an 8% chance to get stunned. So say you're running around in a dungeon and you got some archer guys hitting you, they might get stunned, and that's just going to give you a free terramote just like that. Furthermore, you can do 40% extra damage to stun enemies. So there's going to be a decent amount of stunning in this build, but more so immobilization. But if you get a stun from this, that's a 40% extra damage. And when a boss is staggered, they're going to go down and you're going to do 40% extra damage. So that's awesome to have. And then lastly, we have aspect of the aftershock. And this one is also very key for this build, and that will double your landslide pillars as well as provide you 12% extra damage per pillar. So this can be very effective with a lot of pillars. In terms of our skills, we're going Storm Strike, Landslide, Petrify, Earthen Bulwark, trample, and poison creeper. So for spirit boons, we are going with just 10% extra max spirit, just in case there's any spirit issues in this build. So spirit regen in this build is something that might need to be tested. If regen is very tough, we're going to go with one of our variations of this build. So we'll take 10 for now. We're also going to add that 30% extra crit damage. We could have considered extra crit strike chance, but I don't think we need that, and once I go over the skill tree, you'll understand why. We're also going to take Energize to help us potentially gain Spirit with a lucky hit. And then we are taking Calamity to extend the duration of our ultimate since we are taking Petrify. And lastly, we're taking Obsidian Slam to overpower our 10th Earth hits. So there's going to be a lot of Earth hits, and an overpowered guarantee will definitely help with hitting those crazy hits and helping that overall DPS. And here is the skill tree. So we're going to start with taking Storm Strike for our basic attack. This is going to help us immobilize the enemy, and every time you immobilize, you'll get a Terramote stack on Landslide, as well as take Fierce Storm Strike to have a chance to make the enemies vulnerable, and that's another 20% extra damage just like that. We are obviously going to take Landslide, and we're going to max that out. Here we're taking Enhanced Landslide and Primal Landslide. I don't think there's any good case where you take Raging Landslide, but Primal Landslide will help you with those Terramotes. So a lot of this build is going to be collecting Terramotes, so you can just expend that and get a ton of good damage. So we're taking Primal Landslide. We're going to break into Heart of the Wild so that we can get to Wild Impulses. So we're going to get 3 extra Spirit, but then we're also going to expend 9% more Spirit for 15% more damage. Then we're taking Earthen Bulwark. As mentioned with our items, we have a lot of fortification bonuses as well as berry bonuses and overall bulwark bonuses for extended time and extended armor. So this is going to keep you very tanky. It'll help make you unstoppable, and you'll just be able to really tank with that and keep that fortify up, which is very important. So remember, you're going to have your health bar, you're going to have fortify on top of that, and then you'll have a barrier that is actually technically a shield, while fortify is just damage reduction of approximately 10%. I'll link a video in the description of how fortification works, but it's really just a 10% damage reduction of how much you have. So if you have full fortification of your full health bar, and say your health bar is 1,000 damage, if you get hit for 1,000, you actually will take 900 damage. So next up for companions, we're taking Poison Creeper. This one is very important because Poison Creeper does an immobilize, and immobilizing any enemy will get you a Terramote. And furthermore, we're going to take a extra duration and poison it extra long. Because next up, we're taking Neurotoxin and we're taking Envenom. So we're taking that 30% extra crit damage when a enemy is poisoned, and they should be poisoned quite often. Even against the boss, you're going to have that passive going, so they're always going to have some poison damage on them, and that means 30% free damage. And down here, we're taking Crushing Earth for 15% extra damage for those Earth skills. To a CC'd enemy, every enemy should be CC'd, as Trample and Landslide are both Earth damage, so 15% extra damage, as well as if you have over 50% fortification, you are getting another 12% damage to Earth skills. So like I mentioned, honestly, just popping an Earthen Bulwark and getting some kills will get you 100% fortification very easily. So this is pretty much easy to do most of the time, especially while you have a barrier up. Any damage you take is not even going to touch your fortification values. And also we have Critical Strikes with Earth skills will fortify you for 7% base life. So one thing to remember is Terramotes will deal a guaranteed critical strike. So once you collect a few Terramotes, once you see a group of trash enemies, you're going to get a bunch of Terramotes that you can start stacking, and you're going to constantly get fortified health back. So we take Trample. Remember, you can also knock them back, and you can stun them if you hit them into the wall, so that could also mean more Terramotes, as well as Enhanced Trample and Savage Trample for that extra 20 Spirit. For our ultimate, we're taking Petrify. That will stun enemies, giving us more Terramotes, as well as give us a ton more damage while those are stunned, and 50% more damage to bosses for 7 seconds plus 25% because of our Spirit Boon. Also, killing enemies when petrified will help you keep your spirit up, so you'll be able to spam that Landslide as much as possible, and it's going to be doing a ton of extra damage with all of these Earth bonuses and CC bonuses. So we're taking Defiance for Nature Magic, does 12% increased damage to elites. That's going to be Trample and Landslide, because Landslide is also Nature Magic. Then we have another 12% increased damage for Earth skills to vulnerable enemies. So the enemies will get vulnerable just after a few Storm Strikes. Also, you're going to want to do Storm Strike just to get that 4-second bonus to Earth crit damage. It's very important to do some Storm Strikes between hits, but that's going to give us 12% increase more damage. The next one up is Resonance, and that gives us 6% increased damage, which can be tripled if using an Earth skill after Storm. So you're going to start with Storm Strike, and then Landslide, and since a Landslide is also Nature Magic, I think that the mechanic here is that it will trigger 18% damage, and regardless, you're still getting another 6% damage. Down here, we're taking Quick Shift. This is when a shape-shifting skill transforms you, so when you use Trample, it's going to shapeshift you into a werebear, and you're going to run through and mow down some mobs. However, so Trample will now be releasing a bunch of Earth Pillars. I'm not sure if this 15% applies to those Earth Pillars or not. If it does, then this is definitely worth keeping. If not, then it's not worth keeping. Because Trample has a 20-second cooldown, and that will be the main use of this skill. So if not, we're going to take it out and focus these points elsewhere. But for now, assuming that it does some good damage, we'll take it, as well as you can see shapeshifting will give us 12% damage reduction. So every Trample will give us some good damage reduction. And lastly, we're taking Earthen Might. This thing is amazing. So this is a lucky hit on Earth hits, which is all of our damage. When doing an Earth hit, so landslides or Trample, this gives us a 5% chance plus 10% chance on a crit strike and another 10% chance on a stunned or immobilized enemy. So up to a 25% chance to proc this effect. And this effect will give you either full spirit or 100% crit chance. So that will increase your DPS way more and give you the ability to keep spamming. And if you saw, Trample can actually hit 60 times or more against the boss. And that will give you more than 150% chance to hit it, and even way more if that boss is immobilized for any reason. So if you run it during the stagger period, you're at over 200% chance of getting this to proc. So it is essentially guaranteed. So you'll be able to constantly be using Earthen Might as well. So that means a lot of spirit regen, a lot of crit chance, and a lot of crit damage. Swamp Paper aspect of the Trampled Earth is weaker than it appears. So the best way for me to explain it is replacing during its duration for per distance traveled. So it actually doesn't just create 6 pillars, it can create way more depending on how much you travel with Trample. And Trample does have a pretty good max range. So as you can see, fighting Ashava, Rado uses Trample, he goes past Ashava. As you can see, there are multiple rows of landslides. So all of those landslides fighting a very big boss like Ashava will all hit. So this actually is really cool because essentially you have 6 landslides per row and you have 4 to 5 rows of that. So that's 4 times 6 plus a times 2 modifier on the landslide due to the aspect of the aftershock, as well as 12% bonus damage to all of those pillars. So this is why we're seeing so many terramotes being used. And this does also guarantee that those first few tramples are going to hit only crits, and that can be insane damage.
So one more thing to mention, as you can see here, we have a screenshot from Karth on YouTube. Check him out. He is starting with 240 terramote stacks, and this is for an Ashava fight. So one of the very good strategies for world bossing, or bosses in general, is to run around with Poison Creeper or any other stun or immobilize skill and go and stack those up on mobs before coming to the boss to make sure that every landslide hit is a terramote that does extra crit damage.
So Rado was also able to clear the Core Dragon stronghold in approximately 5 minutes using this build as well. The one thing you have to be careful of in normal mobs and elites, a Trample is going to be pushing those monsters. So Trample only creates the landslides where you crossed, and therefore if you push someone out of the way, they're not going to be taking that landslide damage. So you do have to kind of consider your pathing. If possible, you can actually try to miss the monster and hope that those landslides will kind of pick up some damage. And especially in group play, you can have team members help to clump those enemies up, but you have to make sure that the Trample isn't going to be pushing the monsters out of the way. So that's one thing to consider, where it's not as strong in a dungeon kind of setting. But however, you should be able to run through dungeons as well as those landslides. There's still going to be a ton of damage. So that's kind of the point. This build is very fun and explosive, especially for bosses, but it will do a ton of earth damage, a bunch of landslide damage, and Trample is still going to be very effective in dungeons. I know this video was a long one, but I hope it helped you set up a cool build. Let me know your thoughts on the build. Are you going to actually try to use it? And do you have anything you'd like to change? There's always going to be variations. These are all theory crafts that are done before the games come out anyways, so there's a good chance that things are going to change, but this does seem to produce a very strong crit machine. It seems that Druids are really crit focused, and that's kind of cool. I think Druids are going to be one of the strongest classes late game, or at least hit the highest, but I'm very excited to see what it's like. If you made it this far, please consider subscribing and drop a like on the video. I appreciate you, and you also get a cookie. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Peace.